Have you ever imagined a scene in which a dog, of a sudden, you throw in the water to protect the person that he did not know about it? It looks like a story of the film. It's almost unbelievable, but trust me, it happened to be true. These stories of brave dogs make us question the loyalty and love of a pet. Stay with me until the very end because that's all you're going to find out right now might surprise you, and you move in a way that few of the narratives that will be able to reach. It all started on a sunny afternoon, when the blue sky is reflected in calm and the sound of the children playing on the bank of a river filled with the atmosphere of laughter and fun. It was a moment of pure, innocent, fun, simple to do, where to experience the community, it seemed like a quiet, safe, and secure. In the midst of this scene, and there was a family dog, a dog of the common, of a coat, a golden, and a lookout, who had followed every movement, as if they were protecting the area with his vigilant eye. The kids, distracted, running from one side to the other, dived into the water and laughed out loud, and everything seemed to be perfect, until the routine, the quiet, was coming to an abrupt halt. Without any warning, there was a silence tense settled down in the water. A crocodile, a silent, hidden in the trees. I began to get closer to you slowly, with precise movements and predatory pricing. No one saw the danger coming, and the children were distracted, oblivious to the danger that is hiding in there, which is so close to the games. It is at this moment that the story gained a tone of horror when the unexpected happens. The dog, who seemed to just want to look at you, suddenly you notice the presence of the beast, and with a knee-jerk reaction, she decides to take action, putting their own lives at risk to save those of you who were not there, so vulnerable. And what happens next will challenge everything you've learned about courage and loyalty. Are you ready to get to know the real hero of this story? Then take it with me, because the next thing that happens is a lesson of courage, which will be marked in your memory. And in that moment, everything seemed to speed up around you. The dog, with a determination that came from the deepest recesses of his heart, and moved forward without a moment's hesitation, placing himself between the beast and its master. His eyes shone with a strength of beyond compare, as if he were saying, "I'm not going to let anything happen to you." The suspense was palpable, but the courage that the animal seemed to be turning to the room, creating a sort of silence, settled over the forecast. It's amazing how one act of bravery, you can touch us so deeply, which makes us reflect on what it means to protect someone with all the power that you have. If you've ever gone through a situation in which you have to act with courage, you know exactly what you feel does. Share your experience to help us build a strong community where we can exchange know-how and inspiration. If then this is the moment it touched your heart in some way, leave in the comments what else you cried or made you think. In addition to this, liking the video, it's a way of showing that you value this type of content, and search for the stories that inspire us to do better each and every day. And of course, if you want to continue with this story of courage, love, and overcoming it, please subscribe to the channel. Your support makes a big difference, because that's what she does to this space, to grow and to reach more people who need to hear the lessons of life. After all, together, we can spread that sense of hope and strength. Right now, we're going to move forward. Because of the story, there's things that are going to mess around more with us. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because often, what appears to be just a coincidence that the journey is well hidden and a connection to the unseen, which only reveals its true meaning when we look at them carefully. And it was just as well that she began to realize that everything that had happened up to that point, I had a purpose, a lesson that went beyond the simple fact that you overcome the obstacles. It was as if the universe is, in some way, you'd be lining up with every detail so that she can see beyond what the eye usually would. Each and every decision taken, each and every challenge we have faced, it seemed to him, preparing for something that he has not yet had, a consciousness, a transformation from quiet, which was the case from the inside, at the core of who she was. And this transformation will not come from one time to another. It was built with the small steps, and with a choice of daily, many times, difficult and full of meaning. Like a seed that, when planted, it takes time, care, and patience to grow and flourish. And along the way, she begins to realize that your limits are, in fact, the entrance to a brand new version of yourself, one that is stronger, more confident, more connected to the things that really matter. It was such a revelation that would change the course of their history, because it has understood that the real transformation comes from a change in the surface or achievement in a given moment, but also a change in the internal, solid, and that was not of your making. your emotions, and your view of the world. She began to question everything before accepting it as truth, final, and opened the door to a new understanding of himself. And that was even possible. And in the process, he discovered that the biggest impact of all the vineyards from the inside to the outside. As soon as she started to align their actions and their thoughts, their values are more in depth, everything around him began to change. People who seemed to be distant, they became allied with the opportunities that before seemed out of reach, come to be a part of your path, and even with the obstacles, before they seemed to never be removed and no longer be able to block your way, because she knew that the real strength was not the absence of trouble, but the ability to face them with courage and faith in their own nature. And so it was that she began to connect with the truth that is hidden, an invisible force that acts behind the scenes of our lives and to shape our decision-making and urging us on to the next step. That strength, that power, that many times we see it, this is what we call the mind. And it's this mindset, when it is trained and cultivated with care, it is a powerful tool for transformation. It allows us to see beyond what your eyes can see. It gives us the courage to move forward even when things seem uncertain. And it helps us to realize that each moment is difficult, is actually an opportunity in disguise of a challenge. And when you understand it, she realized that the secret is not to avoid difficulty, but to learn how to navigate through them with a look of hope, and learning to trust in one's own ability to overcome them. And in doing so, she began to see the truth hidden behind all the success stories. It is not a silver bullet, but it's a conscious decision to believe in their own power, even when everything around us seems to be crumbling. It's a decision to keep the hope alive we can learn from the mistakes, to come back again and again to the growth of the interior. And so, on this journey of self-discovery has become a real eye-opener, a journey full of learning, while at the same time it reveals a behind-the-scenes of the impact of our decision-making and can generate in our lives and in those around us. Because deep down, it all comes down to a matter of mindset, how you choose to face every challenge, every loss, every win, and how that choice will shape the future of what we build with our own hands. Now, I want to invite you to think about all of this, because it's the true transformation starts in the mind, and it has the power to change everything around us. He comments that it makes no sense to me. To deepen this understanding, we've noticed that a lot of times we are stuck in a kind of a mental loop that limits our ability to continue to evolve. It's as if we loaded up a backpack full of deep-seated beliefs, fears, and expectations. That is, unconsciously, they end up sabotaging our own actions. These beliefs act like filters. Everything that happens to us is to be interpreted by it, directly influences our decision-making, attitudes, and, in the end, the results that we get. And this is where we comes in. The importance of the question we hold these truths are hidden. To take a step back and examine what you believe, it really serves our personal growth, or whether it is merely a remnant of a mindset that needs to be changed. When we begin to understand this dynamic, it's more clear to you. We realize that many of our limitations does not come from external factors, but in the way that we think of these things. For example, someone who has faced a number of defeats in life, you can create an account that is not enough. It's never going to be able to achieve his or her dreams. In this narrative, one that is more compelling as it may seem, it's a mental one. And by acknowledging it, we can start to build up a new chapter in its history, one that we empower them. We challenge them to go beyond what they ever believed possible. This change in perspective is about having the courage to face the truth about himself and to admit that many of the beliefs that were inherited or formed in the course of time without an analysis of the conscious. I now want to go more in depth on this topic because they understand that the mind is the key. It doesn't just mean you want to change, but to act actively to reprogram your mind. And that reprogramming does not happen all of a sudden. Rather, it is a journey of self-discovery and of the small daily decisions that reinforce the new beliefs. Each and every choice we make, every thought that we have cultivated, has a direct influence on the impact we have on the world around us. And, at the same time, this journey reveals a behind-the-scenes of our operation, revealing the patterns that is, until now, remained hidden. It's like finding out a truth that hides it, which, once revealed, makes all of our own perception of reality. In this process, it is essential to understand that the decisions we make in the present to shape the future of our world. Every thought, every action is a seed that we are planting in the ground of the mind. And then, just like a seed, you need to be careful careful, pay attention, and the courage to grow. Our beliefs, it also requires a conscious effort to establish itself. You may have already noticed, throughout its history, some of the changes seem to be as simple in theory, but in practice, they require a force of will be enormous. And it is this strength comes from the understanding that it all starts in the mind, that it is the field where the real transformation happens. To explore these behind the scenes in our own minds, we can begin to understand the impact of our decision-making. It is not only for us, but it reverberates through the whole of the journey. The more aware we are of it, the more prepared we will be to make choices that will truly take you to a place where we want to go. And with these choices, however small it may seem, you have a force of immeasurable value in the construction of a reality that is more in line with your dreams and goals. After all, it's our way of thinking is the foundation of all that we are and all that we can be. If we think about it, this is a great opportunity to free ourselves from the prison of the unseen, which often prevents us from moving forward. It's like opening a door to a world of possibilities where we could rewrite our story from a different perspective. With this revelation, this is the consciousness that we are the authors of our own transformation, and that is what really differentiates those who want genuine change for those staying in your comfort zone, feeding on old beliefs, and, in the process, and the courage to face the truth, the more uncomfortable it is, it's the one that's going to determine our way of development. Because, deep down, it all comes down to is the decision to act, to move, to take control of your own mind, and therefore, an impact on everything around us. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this subject, because it's just in time to confront the truth to hide, that we can begin to understand the power of truth that resides in all of us. Often our greatest strength is not in the difficulty of the exterior, but the thing that we have in-house, the fears, limiting beliefs, and in a rather distorted view about who we really are. These barriers are invisible and often act as walls that prevent us from moving forward and transforming the final. And that's where the courage to stand up to these shadows, it becomes a bridge to a genuine change, an evolution that goes beyond the superficial and the deeper roots of our being. Recognizing these aspects are hidden from view, we begin to uncover the true story behind our decisions and behaviors. The transformation doesn't happen by accident. It is the result of a journey of self-discovery, in which each congregation, the more uncomfortable it may be, it serves as an important first step in this journey. It is as if we are dismantling an old structure, built up over years of experiences, beliefs, and constraints, and then rebuild it to something more closely aligned with our essence. In this process, the mind becomes an ally to powerful to learn how to change the narrative in the country, the way we see ourselves and how we interpret the world. It is critical to have an impact in our lives. The truth is hidden, often in our own history, and in the details that we know nothing about or disparage. It's like a piece of a jigsaw puzzle, which, when fitted, it reveals a completely different picture than what we had in mind. And this revelation is liberating because it gives us the control to rewrite the way from an understanding of the deeper, more true. Every decision we make from this understanding, it is a statement of what you are willing to go beyond the superficial, and the letting go of old patterns that no longer serve you more, and embrace a new outlook on life, more in tune with who we really are. During this time, many of the revelations as they appear on the covers of the mind, often in the form a silent, almost invisible. But when we find them, we'll have the opportunity to make informed choices, to transform what we do, and as a result, the impact that we make on the world around us. This is a journey of self-transformation is, in fact, a solid construction, a move that requires perseverance, courage, and open-minded to learn from and with each step, with each challenge that comes your way. After all, it is the real power lies in our ability to reinvent ourselves, to explore the truth hidden, and then use that knowledge to create a life that is truly meaningful to us. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth. It hides, many avoid seeing it, is that a true transformation doesn't happen all of a sudden. It is as a result of a series of small, daily decisions that, taken together, shape who we are and who we can become. It's as if we're building a bridge between the invisible, between the present and the future that we want. And in every step that we take in the course of the journey, it strengthens that connection, making it one of the strongest, most apparent. And for this reason, it is important to understand that change is not just a matter of willpower, but a change in the mindset of an eye-opener to what's really on the limit. And at the same time, it improves. To find out the deeper layers of our own soul, we begin to realize that many of our limiting beliefs are, in truth, the hidden truths that have been imposed on the course of the year. We hold these truths. A lot of times, they hide under the life, the opinions of others, or even under the normal daily routines, which in anesthesia and also prevents us from seeing the path as clearly as possible. And it is precisely at this point that the journey of self-discovery, it becomes a silent revolution, is capable of transforming our perception of the world and of ourselves. When you begin to question those truths and to open up space for new possibilities, everything changes. We look beyond the surface to understand the impact of our decision-making is so much greater than we can imagine, and that is the real freedom comes from the courage to face your own shadow. It turns out that many of the times, this quest requires a certain willingness to confront fear, to accept the vulnerability that comes along with growth. Because you are, in essence, is the biggest obstacle that we face is inside of us, in our resistance to change. And we all have a tendency to cling to the comfort zones, even though they know that they have to stop learning. This is where it comes to the importance of an open-minded, out of a commitment to lifelong learning, which allows us to see beyond what is on the surface. And when you do that, you start to see behind the scenes of our own growth, and the details that make all the difference in the time to turn theory into practice. The revelation is more shocking is that the real strength does not come from a brute force, but by our ability to make decisions, to choose what truths do we want to leave and where do we want to embrace it. Each and every decision, however small it may seem, you have an enormous weight in the construction of a new reality. And, in the course of this process, people learn that success is not a fixed destination, but a journey of constant tweaking, of the little victories that add up to create a lasting change. The key is to keep an open mind. That's the way it's made the ups and downs, the successes and lessons learned, and that, ultimately, the entire experience is a great opportunity to become the best version of yourself. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the quest for authenticity, and growth is not something that is achieved from one day to the next. It does require a commitment to daily, paying close attention to our actions and our emotions. It is necessary to pay attention to the spacing, the small clues that our own behavior, it gives us about the things that matter. And in so doing, we can begin to understand that the greatest revelation of all is that change happens from the inside to the outside, and that our decision-making, the most significant, are the ones that are made with the courage, with a sincere heart, and above all, self-love. Thus, the journey of transformation, which becomes a celebration of life, a constant movement of self-discovery that only becomes stronger with each new step. And in the process, it is critical to remember that no one is alone in this journey. A look behind the scenes of the transformation are full of moments of connection, discussion, sincere people who are seeking to evolve, and the know-how that often come from unexpected places. It is in this interaction that we find the strength to move forward, to help them overcome the obstacles, and to the fact that the truth is hidden, that you have been searching for is actually inside of us, waiting to be discovered. When you begin to unravel these mysteries built in, everything changes, and that is our view of the world, in our relationships, in our dreams. It all fits together in a way that is more authentic and transformational. And if you think about all of this, it is clear that the journey of self-transformation is not a linear path, but it's an adventure full of discoveries and insights that challenge us to get out of your comfort zone and embrace the unknown. Each and every step brings us a new layer of understanding, and to have an opportunity to redefine our limits and create a life that actually makes sense for those who are, in fact. And in the process, the richer it is, the courage to continue in order to reinvent itself every day, always in search of the truth, the hidden, which, once revealed, you can turn it all around us. He comments that it makes no sense to me. And while on this journey of self-discovery was going on, something that was starting to become clear, a lot of times the biggest challenge was not the search for truth, but in the courage to deal with it. After all, opening opening your eyes to the things unseen, things that a lot of times we would prefer to ignore, that it requires an inner strength that we don't always get together once and for all. It is as if, beneath the surface, a battle quiet to happen between what we believe and what we actually are. And it was during this conflict, that quiet, that I began to realize that all of true transformation are born of this confrontation. This made a conscious decision to look out for in, and you accept that we can find, the more uncomfortable it will be. The truth is hidden. It often presents itself as a seed for the transformation, but it will only germinate when you take that first bold step to amaze him, to take her in. And this find, it often is accompanied by conflicting emotions. It leads us to a deeper understanding of who you really are. The journey to self-knowledge is not a linear path. They are full of curves, ups and downs, moments of doubt, and in the interests of clarity. And in the process, it's common to realize that it is our decisions that shape not only our own destiny, but also the impact that we make on the world around us. Each of conscious choice, an act of authenticity, this is a piece of a jigsaw puzzle. You'll be pushing it slowly to reveal a larger image and more accurate. I now want to go more in depth on this topic, because really, what a lot of people do not realize is that the search for the truth hidden is directly tied to our ability to transform your mental health. The mindset that we have cultivated over time is whether we will resist to the disclosure or if we're going to embrace them with courage and curiosity. And this change in perspective, this change in mindset, it's you that has made all the difference in your journey. When we look beyond the surface and you start to question the standards that are rooted, we are asked to rewrite our story and to challenge your limits and create a new narrative that is based on authenticity and the courage to be who you really are. In the background, it all comes down to a decision. He chose to face the truth that is hidden, even if she has to bring the discomfort, or if you would rather stay in the safety zone of our own delusions are comfortable. This is the real turning point because it determines the potential impact of this revelation you will have in your life. When we allow ourselves to look within and without the fear of finding out the things that are challenging us, we can begin to understand that we are much more than our limitations or our own questions. We are a unique combination of experiences, emotions, and possibilities. That is, when they are aligned with the truth, I will open the door to a radical transformation and in a lasting way. And it is precisely at this point that the day-to-day becomes more and more intense, more real. Therefore, when you dive deeper into the truth that is hidden, you'll find that it also shows an inner strength that you may not even know you had. This would be the one that pushes us forward, to make choices that are more conscious and to build a life that truly makes sense for those who are, in fact. And at the same time, we believe that each and every step in this direction, it is an opportunity to positively impact everything around you, to have more real and deep the people that are around us. After all, it is a transformation of a genuine does not happen in isolation. It echoes. It creates waves of change that can reach the places and people that I never could have imagined. Now, as I reflect back on all of this, it is clear that the key is not in the mood to reinvent yourself, to embrace your own vulnerability, and to be open to the revelation of the life. Because at the end of the day, the greater the truth, the hidden, is the one who lives inside of us, is often forgotten or overlooked, but it is always present, waiting for you to have the courage to look at her. And it is this courage, no matter how challenging it may seem, this is the one that leads to true transformation, a journey of self-discovery that is never-ending, ever-evolving, always on, revealing a little bit more about who you really are. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the truth hidden. It lives inside of us, is like the expanding universe, full of wonders, mysteries, and opportunities that often remain invisible to our sight the surface. It is as if, in the course of time, to create the layers of conditioning, limiting beliefs, and expectations to the outside, which ends up drowning out the essence of pure, this is the spark of authenticity that is, at bottom, had always been there, waiting for the right moment to be found. And it only happens when you decide to look into it, with courage and honesty, confronting our own shadow, and in recognition that they too often prefer to ignore. The journey to self-knowledge, that is, after all, a journey of courage. Because when you open your eyes to our true homeland, we are invited to confront the things that prevent us from moving forward. Fear of the unknown. It's a shame to be vulnerable, or even a resistance resistance to change. But at the same time, it is precisely in this match that we found out the true potential for transformation. Every doubt, every question, every doubt, every question, every doubt, every question, every doubt, every question that arises. And this is an opportunity to get to know each other better, to understand the origin of our behavior, to uncover the reasons that lead us to behave in a particular way. And in doing so, we bridge the gap between who we are and who we can become. This bridge was built with the small, everyday decisions, with informed decisions that challenge the status quo. And we invite you to get out of your comfort zone, because you are, in essence, anything that keeps us from evolving. It is related to the fear of what we may lose, or at the attachment to what is familiar. But when we learn how to turn that strength into a tool for growth, we can begin to understand that true freedom comes from the inside out. It's like if you see a keyword that has always been in our hands on it, but it had only felt when we learned how to use it in the way intended, and opening doors which before would have seemed impossible to cross. And this transformation is not something that happens in an hour or so to the other one. It requires patience, autocompexão, and a provision for examining our own certainties, because a lot of times the major revelations come from a simple question, but it carries a heavy burden of the meaning of, who am I really? What's really important in my life? What are my motivations in a more profound? This is a question that takes us on a journey of auto-exploration, where each of the answer, this is just a beginning, a stepping stone to something higher, something more aligned with our essence. And along the way, we saw the largest transformation that occurs when we learn to accept our own vulnerability and no trials or limitations, because it is here that we find the authenticity connects us to our higher purpose. In the background, an understanding of this truth is concealed. This is how to hack a very important part of the puzzle of our existence. Because when you accept who we are, in fact, stripped of their masks and filters, we can begin to live more fully, more aware, and more in tune with our true selves. And in the process, it's all around you shall gain a new meaning, a new color, a new intensity. It is a journey of discovery that never ends, because each and every step that we take, the more we are moving closer to the core of who we most truly, that it had always been there, quietly, waiting for just that we have the courage to listen to it. And it is this courage which is the key to true transformation. Because when you have decided to get in touch with that inner truth, all of it seemed to be difficult or impossible. It starts to make sense. And then, over time, we notice that, in this connection, it is the one that gives us power to face any challenge, to overcome obstacles and create a life that truly reflects who you are, in fact. Thus, the journey of self-discovery becomes an adventure of the impact of an ongoing transformation, which reveals the behind the scenes of one's own being, where the stunning revelations await for those of you who have had the courage to go forward, always in search of a more authentic self. And as long as this journey continues, it is a reflection of that. The biggest secret is that you can untangle is the one that sometimes it is already inside us, just waiting for us to make the choice to look with the sincerity and courage. Because in the end, it's the greatest truth is concealed. This is the one that you can only find when you stop looking outside and start to explore what is in all of us. This is where it all starts to make sense, and the impact of such a discovery, which becomes a force that transforms not only our decision, but our entire way of looking at the world and our own story. And in so doing, we open the doors to a new world of possibilities, and where the authenticity is in our guide to the journey of self-discovery, becomes the biggest revelation of them all. He comments that it makes no sense to me. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that is the point that a lot of people are in a real turning point in his career. When we begin to understand that our choices are not simply the result of external circumstances or of the will of the moment, but in fact reflect the whole of a building's interior, it all begins to fit together in a surprising way. This realization shows that it is the transformation of what we are looking for. In many times it's there, hidden away in the way that we think our own thoughts and emotions. It is as if, to unravel the truth hidden, it opened a door to a new world of possibilities, and in which the freedom to choose when and if it becomes more real, more genuine. Think about it. It leads us to reflect on the impact of our way of thinking, the way we interpret the world, and the stories we tell ourselves, and the belief that we are going to mold each and every decision, every step we take on our journey. And a lot of the time, these beliefs have been formed formed over a number of years, rooted in historical experience, external influences, or even traumas that unconsciously is still in the lead. Recognize the influence of it is the first step to draw what you have been conditioned to question what we accept as reality, and thus to make room for a change of needs. To do this reading in greater depth, we realized that the process of self-knowledge, it is not the only one searching for answers, but it is a real revolution in the house. It is a journey of discovery of the layers, which until then had been hidden in the emotions that have been suppressed or misinterpreted, the patterns that, in spite of the repetitive, have the potential to be broken. And it is at this point that the transformation to begin to happen in a way that is more conscious, more deliberate. This is not a change in the surface, but rather a rethinking of the whole of a structure, a mental and emotional and even spiritual, a change that affects not only our actions but our way of perceiving the world around us. This new understanding, it also shows us the behind the scenes of what we call a success or a failure. Many times we consider our results to other external factors or by accident, not realizing that, in fact, each and every decision is shaped by a series of internal choice, many of which are automatic. It came to seem natural with age. When we started to have a clearer conscience of this process, we can begin to rewrite that narrative, to create new scripts that aligns with our deepest values. It is as if, in the understanding of the impact of our decisions, we have the power to reshape the whole of our history and to be free from the limitations of that before seemed to be insurmountable, and to create a more authentic to ourselves. And when you do that, you start to realize that the transformation is not a one-off event, but a continuous journey. Each and every insight, each made a conscious decision. Each of the small changes in your mindset will accumulate, building up a whole new world inside. In this world, the truth makes you to be an ally, not an enemy, and the guts to stand up to that, it is hard to become the driving force for it. And as to the authenticity shall be our guide. This is a journey of self-discovery. It is, in essence, a silent revolution, which takes place from the inside to the outside, and at the same time, it reflects on the impact that you have on the outside world. All of this brings us to a deep reflection on the power of the choices we make every day, to what extent we are responsible for shaping our own reality with the choices we make in the present. Each and every moment of consciousness is a great opportunity to move forward in the direction of your life that you truly desire, to break free of limiting beliefs and make room for what is truly in our own right. And in the process, we find an inner strength you may not have considered so far, with a force which is born of the realization that we are the primary authors of our own history, and that history can be rewritten at any moment. They just decide to do it with courage and authenticity. He comments that, "It makes no sense to me. I now want to go more in depth on this subject. It is because of this discovery, in which we are the protagonists of our own narrative. It is not just an abstract idea, but a real revolution in the home that you can make every decision, every choice that we make in the course of our journey. When we begin to see life from that perspective, it all gets a whole new dimension to the obstacles. We'll no longer be merely the barriers imposed by the destination, and it will be the challenges that we may face it with a mentality that is stronger and more aware. It is as if to take over the role of the authors and would learn the responsibility that seemed to be far away or even scary, but in fact, it's liberating. At this point, we realize that our actions, our thoughts, and our emotions have a direct effect on the story that you're writing it, and that awareness is the first step in the transformation to be real. On the other hand, the paradigm shift does not happen at one time or another. It is a process of reconstruction and deconstruction of the old, limiting beliefs that often keep us from moving forward. Many of these beliefs have been built up over the years because of external influences, past experiences, and even the fear of taking over complete control of our lives. It's as if you had loaded a backpack full of weights, which over time they became natural and not seen, but which, in fact, to limit our freedom to decide and act with authenticity. So what do you do to start the download of these weights and a rewrite of a story more in line with who you really are? The answer to this lies in the courage to face the truth it hides. Many times, do we avoid that we are all responsible for everything that happens around us, including our own failures as well as successes. It is not about guilt, heavy-handed, but with an understanding that gives us the power to true. When it comes to it, we begin to realize that our choices, however small they may seem, they have a knock-on effect, which can completely transform the course of our history. This awareness leads us to reflect on the impact of the choice, each and every word, every action, and at the same time, it gives us the freedom to choose the way to a more aware, more in tune with our values and dreams of the most profound. Right now, I want you to go deeper in the subject line, because that's the journey of self-discovery also reveals a behind the scenes of our mind, and with all the internals and mechanisms, which often operate in an automatic way, sabotaging our progress. It's like having a team with many voices. One drives, the other on the brake, one who believes another one, which is doubtful. And if we don't learn how to listen to and understand the voice, we're caught in a cycle of insecurity and fear that seem to prevent us from moving forward. But the biggest revelation is that we can train our minds to become our ally, so that each of the negative thoughts will be replaced by a statement of strength and determination. After all, it is the transformation begins in the mind, in the very understanding of who we are and the potential that we have. As you explore such scenes, we have found that the most important decisions are the ones involved in our way of thinking. It is she who shapes our actions and therefore our reality. And when you realize this, we can begin to understand what the impact of that journey is, not only external, but that is mainly built in. With each victory or defeat is a learning opportunity and a revelation about yourself. And to bring this truth, we began to see the difficulties with a more lightly on the planet, such as the steps that are required for the growth, rather than insurmountable obstacles. In this process, the analysis becomes our best friend, because only you can rewrite history in a way that is true and lasting when we are in alignment with who you truly are, without masks or face masks that are imposed by the fear of being judged. In this time of self-discovery, and the revelations that emerge go far beyond the superficial. It shows that the transformation is not a one-off event, but a continuous journey of self-discovery and evolution. And to understand the impact of our choices, and intimate, we understand that each move is part of a larger mosaic that we have built over the years. Each and every piece, every part, it reveals a little bit more of our lives, from our own hidden truths, and the power we have to shape our own destiny. It's the feeling of freedom that is born out of the realization that, as much as the past and have tried to in shape, this is our chance to rewrite the history, courage, authenticity, and a close look at the opportunities that are ahead of us. And as we dive in the universe of the findings, it is clear that this transformation is not just a mindset change, but a revolution in the home that challenges everything you have learned up to now. It is understood that it is the truth that is hidden, often in silence. It is the key to unlocking the potential or imagined to exist. When you realize that behind every difficulty, there is an opportunity to grow, a chance to reaffirm who we really are. And in doing so, we begin to realize that our story is a work in progress, a new creation that you can edit them at any time. You just decide to do it with courage, authenticity, and a mindset that is open to the revelations are still to come. He writes in, "I'm on this journey too. If you've come this far, it's because they truly believe that each and every step, however small they may seem, is part of the process of transformation in which we are living. And look, this is a journey worth taking, because every waking moment of self-awareness and the courage to move us closer to who we really want to be. So if you get this message resonate with you, leave in the comments, "I'm on this journey too." It's always nice to know that we are not alone in this way, you know? And by the way, if you think that this content has brought a sense of clarity or inspiration, as you already take the opportunity to leave your like. This will help you to keep that connection alive, and it shows us that what we share, it makes no sense to you. All I know is that sometimes the more difficult it is to go to the next step, but remember, each and every little decision of whether or not to get to know you better, to allow you to learn more about itself, it is a win-win. And here on the channel, and the idea is just to create this space where we can share ideas, learn together, and to strengthen his journey of self-development. So if you haven't yet signed up, there is the invitation to come to us. Why the content that we are done with care and with the intention of will help you to move forward with more confidence. Your support makes all the difference, and I'm trying to keep track of your progress. And to continue this conversation, there's a video right here on the side, which complements this subject. You can click and keeps me there as well. Let's do this together, always in the direction of being a better version of ourselves. To the next, the content, and to remember if your growth is a journey that is worth it to be traced.